Good morning, everybody. This is Lainey from Hilltop Home Place. Big happenings around here. Yesterday, we got rain from morning until dark. That is the first time that that's happened in I don't know when. Well, it's not happened, I know, since the spring, but it's not the first rain we've had because I did have a couple little showers here and there and yonder. The last one was a 10-minute shower on September 24th. But yesterday there was this front thing that moved across the Gulf Coast. It started over, I guess, down in Mexico, but then it went across Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. And it did not rain hard here ever. I woke up to sprinkling rain on the roof, and then throughout the day it got a little bit more at some points, but never enough to where I couldn't come in and out of my house without, I didn't need an umbrella all the time. But it was steady though, and it didn't stop, and it kept on all day long. And then last night, about 7 o'clock, the wind started and the trees were blowing almost like it does when we start having hurricane winds. And it was kind of creepy. Well, what I was worried about was limbs breaking off because they've been so brittle and they've been breaking off. And I remember telling y'all that I was glad they were breaking off because if we did have big winds, I was worried that they would have snapped during winds and blew towards our trailer or something and hit our house. Well, it was good, I guess, that they did fall and break off because last night no big ones fell off. We just had little limbs. I had little limbs all in my little garden beds and stuff, but nothing bad. But what happened last night, because it was so windy and it was raining and drizzling and all, I didn't go out to feed the dogs. I usually will feed them and water them and put them up when Richard gets through riding the golf cart in the evenings. Well, he didn't ride the golf cart because of the rain. I was inside cooking. Next thing you know, this wind started. So I was like, well, I'll just let my son deal with it when he gets in from school. So that's what happened. And when he got in from school, I opened the front door. He was coming up the ramp and I opened the front door. I said, I didn't feed the dogs. You have to go feed them. So he went out there and he was taking a while. And all of a sudden he texted me and said, the dogs are pinning down an armadillo. And I was like, yes, fantastic. And so a little bit later, I hear the gunshot and he's popped the armadillo, I hope. So I texted him and I said, cha-ching, did you get it? And he texted back and said, yes. So last night, that annoying, never-ending digging armadillo met its demise. I'm so glad. The cage has not been a success, and that was my fault kind of because I gave up. What was happening was I was baiting it and then the baits would be gone. And then one night I baited it and I went to bed and I heard it snap. And I was like, I got it. Well, I went out the next morning, the bait was gone and the thing had tripped, but there was nothing in it. And I was so confused. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the hardest armadillo in the world to catch. And then when my son got home that night, I said something about it. I said, did you hear that trap go off? Because I had it right under his bedroom window. And he said, oh, that was the dog. He had been out with the dogs before he went to bed. And our biggest dog had got in the cage, got the bait, which was a can of like Kipper, whatever, let you buy at Dollar Tree, and took the bait out. And when he was backing out, of course, it snaps. But he was so long that it wouldn't shut with him in there. So it had been my dogs stealing the bait. So that's what was going on. The armadillo never actually got in the cage. So I just said, you know what? Maybe the armadillo is not even around anymore. I went through a few days there of not seeing any action from it. And every now and then you do see armadillos dead on our road. So I thought maybe he's dead. Maybe that's the end of him. And so I kind of had quit worrying about it. And I was kind of aggravated that the dogs were getting the bait out of the cage. And I was baiting it at dark when I was putting them up. But when my son was letting them out, they were getting in the cage and getting the bait. And so I was tired of that. But the dogs actually were the heroes last night. My son said when he let them out of their cage so he could water them and feed them and everything, that they went crazy. And they went to a hole that was dug under my 18-wheeler, which I knew that hole was there. And I always wondered what dug it and what lived in it. And they went straight to that hole and went crazy and started digging up dirt and going down into the hole to where he could hardly see the dogs. He said it scared him to death. And the dogs would run out. They were running all over the top of the lawnmower and everything. And then the armadillo, when it came out, they chased it. And that's how he was able to shoot it, when they kind of pinned it near a fence. And so Anyway, so the dogs ended up being my heroes, even though they ended up being the reason I quit setting the trap, because they were just getting everything out of it. So the rain and the armadillo, two big pieces of good news for us at Hilltop Home Place. This is the little area here that I tilled the other night when I was having so much trouble with my tiller, and I didn't get to go over it again. This is just one pass, up and down, one pass. I wanted to go back over it again to kind of really churn it up. What I'm doing here, this is just an experiment. But I mixed together a bunch of different things, about 5 or 6 different things. And I'm just gonna plant what I'm calling a pollinator patch here. And this is fall and it's going into winter. So I don't really know how this is gonna do, but I'm gonna kind of make it maybe a permanent little pollinator patch. And then in the spring, I'll sow a lot of other things. I bought a bag the other day at Tractor Supply of wildflower mix that you sow and water for a few days. And it's just a big mixture of all kind of things, from zinnias to everything else, cosmos and all. I'm gonna pretty much put that in here in the spring too. But for right now, I'm just gonna put some things that I think will come up for this winter, and that will keep the grass off of this. I want to kind of keep something growing in here, keep the grass off of it, but I wanted to go ahead and have it kind of churned up here in the fall. What I'm hoping is that it'll bring in a lot more bees and butterflies and things in the spring to have this here. It's right near the section where I plant tomatoes and all kind of things. It's right by that azalea branch row where I grow a lot of things. And it's very convenient to my bigger garden that I have over here. I have some things going in it now. Having some trouble with a lot of germination on some of the rows, but I'm fixing to replant again for the 2nd or 3rd time. I'm just gonna keep planting until things are ready to grow. Our soil temperature has dropped from 92 degrees just a couple of weeks ago down into 75 or so degrees now. So I think things are more apt to germinate now and more apt to grow. So I'm just going to keep reseeding until they seem happy, and then I'll be really happy. I have a lot more little planting spaces, different places. So I'm just going to keep up this sequence until I get something, because I want some plants growing in the fall. But what I'm planting here right now, just to have something to cover this soil, to develop some root structure, to bring some organic matter into this little section that's going to be my pollinator row, I mixed in this little bucket here oats, just a little sorghum grass. I don't know if that'll come up in the fall, but I put it in there, a little portion of it. Some black oil sunflower seeds. There again, they may not come up right now, but all these seeds will kind of be in there still, and I think eventually they'll come up. The little gray seeds you see is landino clover. I also put some dwarf Essex rape in there, and I wrote it on here. I don't know why I'm trying to guess. Let me just look. Some rape, some oats, some sunflower seeds, sorghum grass, and landino clover. Yeah, so those 5 things are in here. And I feel sure the rape and the oats will germinate and do well. I actually have some dwarf Essex rape germinating in other parts of my yard right now. The landino clover says it's ideal to plant it when the soil's 60 to 65 degrees. I'm just going to see what happens. I can always come back out here and throw some more out here. I have several gallon Ziplocs full of these seeds. So just wanted to keep the grass covered, see if something will come up, see if I can develop some root structures, because that dwarf Essex rape really sends down tap roots and just bust your soil up and everything. And then hopefully this spring I can come in here with some wildflowers and stuff, and even some in that wildflower mix, some of them are perennial flowers. They're not just all annuals, so things can reseed and come back and hopefully I can kind of see what's going to happen with this little area, and then make it a pretty area at some point. I'd maybe edge it with something, or just keep it really nice and neat, and then let it be a pollinator garden. Let it be a little haven where these butterflies and everything know they can kind of come to, and it'll just help my whole yard, I think. I'll probably also do some other little spots. I've got all these seeds here. I'll probably walk around to other spots on the other side of my driveway and everything, and maybe make a couple of more little spots over there. So doing the best I can with the time of year it is and with what I have. Well, look what I found down here in my dirt. It's my linchpin from the other night with my tiller. It's the first thing I saw when I started to rake here. I'm gonna put that in my pocket and hang on to it. Lord knows I'll probably need it. Though it did rain yesterday, the soil was still pretty dry whenever I raked through it because it never rained really, really hard, just a steady sprinkle all day. And these seeds, I really want to kind of make sure they germinate, so I wanted to get them moist. So I'm gonna run this sprinkler over them for a little while. I'm hoping for good luck. Some of these seeds, like the landino clover, you can almost just sow on the top of the ground, no big deal. These oats, it said you could sow them 1 to 2 inches in the ground, but I'm not doing that. I just raked them, and some of them are covered, some of them are still exposed, I see. But I'm hoping if I can keep them moist over the next few days, that they'll still germinate. The majority of them will. Well, y'all, it's late evening now. I've done so many things today. There's no way to film everything. I have a lot of different things I have to do in and out of the house. But on either side of the Mary, I went ahead and put some more of that pollinator row seed mixture. I decided to come around the tree here and put some more in this little mound. This is where my tomatillas grew last year. But next year, I'm kicking it up a notch with the tomatillas. I made some salsa verde and all with those. It was so good. I've still got some in my freezer. I just froze it in Ziplocs. And next year, I'm gonna really hit the tomatillas. I'm gonna do a lot of plants. Around here, I just had another little bare spot that something had died in. So I went ahead and raked it back and then filled it with those pollinator seeds and used the last of my bucket, and maybe something will come up there. So I've kind of basically just wrung this tree area, and maybe for the winter, it'll just at least look like I have something growing here, whether it's oats or rape or whatever. I did have a little solid area here of wood chips and a little bed that I grew things in this year, but I raked them all off. I filled in a little more here with some wood chips, and then I filled in all back here. I'm trying to kind of make it where I don't have a lot of little grassy areas that I have to push mow, and I'm using these wood chips to kind of tamp down the grass. What I did was, in this bed a while ago, I came and I added, I've already got some rattlesnake pole beans growing here, and I've got some speckled brown climbing cowpeas over on this branch. I'm hoping they'll all go to maturity after this rain and all. I'm kind of hoping they'll take off, and they've grown, so I'm just hoping they'll kind of take off. But I went ahead and all around the edges, I planted some of these purple top white globe turnips. I did it on all 3 little branches, all the way around the edges of these plants. So I want to have something in the ground, even where there's something already coming up. I want to keep planting. I may come back in here and throw some rutabagas. I may do something else too. I'm going to get to that in just a second, but I'll tell you real quick some other things I'm planning. I've got to go ahead and get my daylily bulbs in the ground, and I think I know where I'm going to put them. It's not in my gardening areas, it's just in some other spots, but I'm going to go ahead and try to get those in before dark. And then I've got some seeds for some Hackeri turnips. They're supposed to be really good. I've never tried them before. They're a hybrid. I'm hoping with the strength of this hybrid, they'll grow good. We'll see. And I have another hybrid called the White Lady turnips. They have the coated seeds. And I'm going to go find some spots and plug these in. Also, towards the front of one of my flower beds, on the other side of the azalea branch bed, I'm going to plant these red giant mustard greens. I have a ton of mustard green seeds, but I have a little spot over there where I need to put something, so I'm going to try these in that spot. I'm going to see if I can kind of catch a little bit of this beautiful sunset going down this evening. It's been overcast all day today. It hadn't rained or anything, but it's been overcast. And now right here at sundown, we're getting this beautiful sunset going down. I just wanted to say, I know there's a lot going on in the world, and I have a lot of thoughts on it, and everybody does. I'm not really gonna address my thoughts right now, but I just want to tell everybody to please keep working and keep planting. Put things in the ground if you can. Go through your seeds tonight and see if there's anything that you can plant for your season right now. My season is fall, but I do know I have viewers from Australia and everywhere, and your seasons are completely different from mine. So go through your seeds and just see what you have, and maybe just stick something here, stick something there. Just keep things growing in the ground if at all possible. That's what I'm doing right now. I had a plan for rows and what to do with my corn patch and all this kind of stuff. And I'm still working. I'm working on the corn patch and I'm working on things. But I've also just decided to just keep putting seeds in the ground wherever I can. Wherever I see an empty spot, put seeds in the ground. Not everything has to be fresh grown. Not everything has to be pressure canned and all. But the more that you have growing, the more options you have. If you see sales, grab the canned stuff at the store. Grab it. I mean, stock up your pantries with whatever you can. But just knowing that you have things coming up out in your yard, nothing's for sure. Little varmints can get after things. You never know. But just knowing it's out there is a good, secure feeling. And I think right now, everybody needs a little secure feeling. I know I do. And so this last week, that's one way I work out my stress, is I just see what I can do. What can I control? There's so much in this world I cannot control. I don't even understand it anymore because I don't trust sources anymore. And I have to evaluate how I'm going to take in information and process it. I just go to God with a lot of it, and I just say, you know everything. You know everything that's going on. You know what's truth. You know what's lies. You know who's at fault. You know who isn't. You know everything. I don't know much of anything, even though I do kind of fancy myself as somebody that keeps up with things. When you're across the world from things and you really don't trust sometimes what you're being told, then you don't know, really. You don't know. Not unless you're just in a highly classified position, and I'm not, and I don't know anybody else that is. But you don't know. But you can kind of take back some of that anxiety by making sure that you're just doing everything that you can to protect yourself and to grow some food. And there is really no better return on investment in this world than seeds. And seeds that turn into meals, seeds that turn into pressure can jars full of food, seeds that turn into foods you could hand to somebody and give it to them and help them out, seeds that you can and then know that you have way more than maybe you need for your household, but that you could feed your family if you had to. And that's my goal, and that's been my goal, and I might be a repeating record here, but even though I had a terrible summer, I had a good spring. I did get some things I canned up this spring, and I have pickles and I have green beans, and I did some cherry tomatoes and all that kind of stuff, and then we ate a lot of the regular tomatoes. Even though I had things, I had a terrible summer because my corn burned up, and a lot of the things that were just starting to thrive, like my tomatoes, burned up and everything. And then I went through a phase where it was just hard to grow anything, even cowpeas. When you can't grow cowpeas in the South, it's hot and it's dry. And so even though I had all those stumbling blocks, I can't let that stop me. I can't just say, oh, this is a bad garden year. I got to get seeds in the ground. And so that's what I'm kind of focusing on now. Tonight, I already told my husband, tonight I've got supper made from last night. And so I don't have to cook tonight. I'm going to get everybody fed, get out of that kitchen, and then I'm going to sit with my dresser drawers full of seeds, and I'm going to keep looking. I got my turnips here. I got my rutabagas out. I've been talking a lot about the dwarf Essex rape, and that's because it puts off really good, delicious, nutritious leaves. It doesn't put off any type of a bulb or anything, but the leaves are very, very good. They look and kind of taste like rutabaga leaves, but they have lots of vitamins in them. And I'm thinking vitamins, and I'm thinking things like that. My goal is to just convey at the end of this video, please keep planting. Please keep planting. Please keep planning. things for the spring even, already go ahead and start working on it and planting things for the spring. It's going to be time to start seeds after the first of the year, and it'll be here before we know it once the holidays kind of creep up on us. So I encourage everybody, I know the world can seem crazy, but take back some of your control of this world. Pray, give it to God, and then just take it back by working and planting and growing and feeding yourself. Everything that you can grow that can be part of a meal or part of a pot of something, and it's one less thing you got to buy at the store, you're doing good. At the end of this video, right after I sign off, I'm going to put a little bit of information about that pollinator row I was talking about a while ago. I got that idea from someone, and I'm going to try to give the credit for it if I can find the exact video I watched at the end. And I'm going to put a little clip of his mixture for the pollinator row that he used. And so if it'll help you to kind of get an idea, this man planted these pollinator rows along the whole boundaries of his crop fields. And he said it became like a living ecosystem. Birds lived in it, butterflies, bees, and he said his production in his fields went up like crazy. So I'm just experimenting with some little spots. I'm not putting it all around the whole boundaries of my property, but you gotta start somewhere. And I'm not using his whole recipe because I don't have everything right now. But I'm gonna use what I have of the recipe in the way that I have it. And if you have some of these things, and then later on you can also mix tons of flower seeds in there and everything else, and just maybe consider starting you a pollinator row around your house that's dedicated, that you're not going to plant vegetables to harvest and stuff in there. It's just going to be a pollinator row to attract bees and butterflies and even birds and anything like that that can just bring an ecosystem or life to your property. This is Lainey from Hilltop Home Place. Please stay tuned for that, and I thank y'all so much for joining me. Bye-bye. I tried, but my history didn't go far enough back in YouTube for me to find the name of this video. But this is the mixture that the man made to put around his fields for his pollinator row. He called it Pollinator Palooza. The 3, the 2, the 1, the numbers that are on here represent parts. In other words, if you had a 1-cup measuring cup, you'd put 3 cups buckwheat, 1 cup chickpeas, etc. It's just the ratio. So it's easy to follow. I, of course, only had a few of these ingredients, and that's all I'm using. But here's just an idea of what he uses. You may have some of this, and you may could throw together your own concoction and try it. If you do, let me know. I appreciate it. Thank y'all so much. Bye-bye.